Katie Pavlich. Katie, good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem. Glad to be here.
You know, another day and another new detail in Fast and Furious. I mean, it's almost like Cylindra and Fast and Furious are playing leapfrog right now in terms of where the most scandalous information is coming from. One day it looks like it's Cylindra, the next day, bloop, all of a sudden it's Fast and Furious. Today we hear this audio of a conversation between an ATF field agent in Phoenix and one of the FFLs that the ATF used in Fast and Furious to supply these straw buyers with guns. Let's go ahead. Do we have the audio? Can we listen to this one more time here? All right, it'll be 1 second here. But they're discussing the murder of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry and the number of murder weapons that were found at the scene. And this is how the conversation went.
There's three weapons.
I know that. 3 weapons.
And yes, they have serial numbers of all 3.
That is correct. Is that?
2 of them came from the store.
I understand that. Yeah.
And there's an SKS that I don't think is something else, from Texas or something.
I'm talking about the AKs.
No, the 2 AKs came from the store.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
I did the goddamn trace.
The 3rd weapon is an SKS.
Yeah, and that didn't come from me.
No. And there is, that to my knowledge, and I spoke to somebody who would know, there's no ones that they have. So, this is the agent that's working the case, and all I can go by is what she told me.
All right, so there were 3 weapons. Katie, apparently in all of the court filings surrounding this case and the murder of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, there's been no mention of a 3rd gun.
Right. We've been told for months and months that there were only 2 guns linked to this murder. And my question is, in that audio there, the agent says that she's going off of what other ATF agents who are working on the case have told her. Why is she in the shop, not really knowing what was going on with the case, discussing it with the gun shop owner who is cooperating with ATF? He's clearly irritated with the idea that she doesn't really know what she's doing and what she's talking about. He's saying, I know, I'm aware. I was helping ATF do this. I know they came from here. I did the trace. And she's acting a little bit clueless when it comes to what he's actually talking about. But going back to the whole idea that, 2 of the guns, we've been told that two AK-47s were found at the scene and that they were the only guns traced to Operation Fast and Furious. Now, through this conversation, we've learned that there is, in fact, a 3rd gun. In the past couple of weeks, we've also seen that possibly the U.S. Attorney's Office and even maybe the FBI has been covering up Brian Terry's murder from the beginning, not months, not weeks after it happened, but immediately at the scene. And we need to point out that the FBI, Homeland Security, Border Patrol, none of those agencies have submitted a specific detailed account of what actually happened that day. We don't have any details on what really happened at that scene.
You're right. We don't. In fact, we've got what we have, Katie, frankly, are more emails talking about the need to cover up the connection between Fast and Furious and Agent Terry's death than we do details about what happened that night.
Right. And not only do we have emails talking about how to, the details of covering it up, but we also have the actions of the U.S. Attorney's Office not giving any information out, saying they referred the case to the DOJ Inspector General. This tape has also been given to the DOJ Inspector General, and I doubt that we're going to see any progress from that end of the spectrum, considering they haven't been very helpful at all when it comes to giving us any information. And this is one thing that the Terry family has complained about. They said, we just want answers over and over again. We just want to know what happened. And they can't even have the decency, whether it's through DHS or whether it's through the FBI, who, last week were in front of the Senate while John McCain asked Janet Napolitano and the FBI head whether they knew about this. They can't even give the family the decency of, here's a crime report, this is what happened, and now they're having to find out through, recorded conversations how many guns were linked. And when they've been told there was 2 up to this point, now it's 3, and you just have to wonder what really went on. And if you noticed in that conversation as well, 2 of those guns came from a Glendale, Arizona shop, right? Operation Fast?
Yes, the Lone Wolf Trading Company, yeah.
Right, and she says in the conversation that the 3rd gun may have come from somewhere in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Operation Fast and Furious was supposed to be a Phoenix operation, so I'm thinking that the reason why they're covering up the 3rd gun is because they don't want it to look like this was a multi-state operation, that it was simply coming out of Phoenix office, the Arizona office, the Arizona office in a one-state policy rather than something that was spread across the board, in Texas and Arizona, or even New Mexico and California for that matter.
Well, that's, and I think you're absolutely right about that. I mean, we know in Texas there are allegations that there were Fast and Furious style tactics, or at least questions as to whether or not Fast and Furious tactics were used in Houston and in the Dallas area. This is something that I think Senator Cornyn has brought up, Representative Lamar Smith has brought up, Blake Farenthold has discussed. So, this is, I think, another area of inquiry that is now opened up. But you also have to wonder, apparently the Office of Inspector General, the entity within DOJ that is doing the internal investigation into Fast and Furious, when they found out about this audio, they didn't, as far as we know, they didn't turn around and hand it over to the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. They gave the audio to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Phoenix,
right,
one of the offices that they're actually investigating.
Mm-hmm.
And that's raising some questions as well. Why would you give this to an entity that you're investigating and not give it to fellow investigators?
Right. Well, because this goes back to the whole idea of this internal investigation that's been so frustrating to deal with through DOJ or through the Arizona U.S. Attorney's Office. They've been citing an ongoing internal investigation the entire time we've known about this for months. Darrell Issa has had to say over and over again, we are investigating you. We are not investigating with you. We are not in partnership with you. We are investigating what you have done here. So for them to cite these ongoing, insider investigations and try and keep all of this information within DOJ, within the U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona, is just a way for them to buy time and for them to build their own case to cover up what they've found.
Yeah, and that's, you hate to make these allegations, Katie, but again, watching what's going on here and watching how all of this is unfolding, the details of Fast and Furious are excruciating. People have died. But the actions of the Obama administration in terms of the investigation into Fast and Furious, I think has been so bad. Such a lack of cooperation from a and really no outrage from the administration whatsoever. Nobody's been fired.
No.
People have been reassigned. People have been allowed to resign. But they've tried to brush this under the rug as quickly and as quietly as they can.
Right. If anything, these administration officials have been very, strangely calm surrounding this entire thing. And yes, the allegations are serious, but they're absolutely warranted. When you look at the behavior of how the DOJ has acted, how ATF field agents have been retaliated against for their corruption exposure, how they have to be careful about what they say, and they're worried about their jobs now. And you have Eric Holder denying that he knew anything. You have the White House denying they knew anything, although we now know that White House security staff was in contact with ATF and the DOJ over this issue.
Yeah.
They've continually tried to put up these ideas that they had no idea what was going on, yet those keep getting, debunked with more information that we see going forward. So, they are serious allegations. I think that, with the history of what's happening here, the DOJ is not going to hold itself accountable. There's going to be no consequences for DOJ. There aren't going to be any consequences for U.S. Attorney's Office in Arizona. You saw Dennis Burke resign with, a glowing letter about how his office acted in
Absolutely.
Phoenix. He acted like they had no problems whatsoever when they were the ones giving legal advice.
I know. Hey, Katie, I hate to cut you off. We got 5 seconds left. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We'll see you in studio Wednesday night.